What's up, guys? Welcome back to another Fortnite Save the World. Uh, this one is going to be a little bit of a in-depth kind of video where I kind of explain what I do either as I do it or why I'm doing certain things, like why I'm putting certain traps in certain places or why I'm using certain characters, which is an important thing. Certain heroes, rather. So I'm gonna first start with my heroes. All right, my loadouts more specifically. If you pay attention to the commander or the main, as I like to call it, I like to say this is your main. This is the hero you're maining because it's the ability which you're going to be using prominently. The other ones are supporting either that ability or that weapon. In this case, I have Sight to Meet You. I said that all weird. I'm sorry, but this is strictly for sight damage because I have a scythe weapon in ventures that I wanted to use. I'm almost on ventures now, uh, so I don't really need it anymore. But I usually use the first one for my first let out for random, whatever. My first and last are usually random. So my first loadout and my ninth loadout are gonna be like whichever one I want for fun or not for fun type of build. Like this one is pretty much for fun. I set it up to use scythes to have a lot of damage with scythes because if you don't know, there's a weapon called the Steam Thrasher. It's a scythe, obviously, and it spins around continuously so long as you have energy. And so with this build that I set up, you're essentially going to be gaining energy per kill, and well, with two characters. One being let's see her name. Upgrade and inspect with Anticotal Sarah. She gives 7.5 energy if you ever just standard. If you have more, she'll give you more. If you have a main, she'll give you more. What I was trying to say. But I'm going with the standard 7.5 energy per kill. We go back again, and we look at Jonesy. Our continue. It's just telling me that the item has changed previously, but I don't think it changed very much. It shouldn't have changed. There may be a condition add-on or something like that, but as far as I know, it hasn't really changed. Eliminations restore 6 energy over 3 seconds. So with that, and with Anti-Cuddle Sarah, you're getting a good little bit of energy per kill, right? You're getting what 12, 13 and a half every kill, but that's also 6 extra every 3 seconds. So I have it essentially set up for sight damage and kind of crit damage since I have this character as well that gives sights increased crit by 15. So this is essentially just a sight crit weapon sort of setup. And I've totally worked it out as well because after I believe it's 10 kills, it might be 5 kills if you have the team perk. It activates Rocket Rift, which will also increase crit rating. So you get where I'm going with this. More crit rating, potentially more damage, especially if you have let's say like a double crit damage, two double crit damage. If you have two crit damage perks on, let's say, your weapon, and you have a single crit rating, and maybe a damage, or maybe a swing speed, or maybe something else to on the weapon itself. We'll go over that in a little bit, but what I'm trying to say is, in this sort of setup I have thus far, it's going to be stacking crit rating. Hopefully, right? It's going to hopefully be stacking crit rating, so you wouldn't need as much crit rating, let's say, on your weapon, and that's sort of the purpose of this setup. I have Adrenaline Rush is slow fill just cause in some cases their enemies when they die they give off this like this burst in which the enemies around it will either heal or drop a slow field. Not a slow field, but it's a slow pool or an acid pool, or other enemies around it might be enraged, in which they run faster, they do a little more damage, stuff like that. So I like to have a slow food with it, especially because this is a melee build, and you don't want those small husks jumping at you. That's one of the things that they jump out of really fast. So if they're jumping straight up out of it, they can jump out of it pretty fast. But if they're jumping towards you, then you have that kind of heads up. At least in my opinion, that's what I go um, for that. Another reason is if you have enemies that throw stuff within that slow field, and that'll help you a lot too. Because slowing them down, you get to run up on them and attack them while they're still, or while they're slow, while they're charging up their shot. Like with the Cowboys, they'll wind up their shot, or like with the pitchers. The pitchers will also wind up their shot. It's not like a fast wind up, but if you have a slow field that you could use, it is a 40% reduction to their speed in a one tile radius. So you can imagine where that applies. That applies probably best in a one tile situation. But you could use it in a bunch of situations. You can, lead enemies into it and slow them down like that. But yeah, this setup is essentially just for scythe crit rating with like energy stuff, so that I can continuously spin, because it's the heavy attack. It's a heavy attack, so it does more damage. Let's go to my next. I'll show you the weapons after, and not necessarily how best to use them, but how you might want to pair them with certain loadouts, hero loadouts, or builds, as I refer to them as. I'll ask people from time to time, what hero builds or what character builds do you have, and do you have a gun that is best suit for that build? You know what I mean? It's just something like in the case, not necessarily of this one, but in the case of something like my power mod setup, or just actually just a general like base setup. But oh yeah, back to 2. Okay, but like for this one is damage, damage, crit damage. It's a bit of both, but this is strictly for the bow, the Xenon bow, and I can show you how I have that set up later. Right now, this is just damage. So what I have for my main, I have Stoneheart Farah, as you could read. On bow hit, arrow splinters, dealing 60% of damage to 5 nearby enemies. And that is always really good, especially in settings that you have like widespread enemies. Obviously, it does spread like half a tile, maybe. So it's always a good shot. You can get a bunch of enemies in one hit. If you have the Xenon bow as well, it goes through enemies, and I don't know if this is true or not. It may have been a fluke and I shot 2 arrows at once. Not at once, but like one after the other. But I'd used this once and I'd shot through a group of enemies. It hit, splintered a bunch of enemies once, went further away and hit another group of enemies and splintered again. So, if that is true, then that's really cool. But I'm not sure if it's true. I probably just spammed it and hit another group. Again, I have Totally Rocking Out. It's an increased crit rating, decays over 8 seconds, yeah, and it heals. So when Totally Rocking Out, something I need to explain too. When Totally Rocking Out activates, so let's say after you kill 5 or 10 enemies, and I'm basing this off of the battle beat, the breakbeat wildcat hero, which is this one right here, which gives a rocket rift after 10 eliminations. I'm basing the Totally Rocking Out activating on this character's activation requirement. So I'm saying like 5 or 10 because I'm not sure if it's 5 if you have the team perk on, or if it's still 10. But I have a feeling it's 5. Um, but it might be more than that. Usually, when I shoot the arrow, um, it'll splinter, it'll hit 5, and then most of the time, Totally Rockin' Out will activate. So, what I have to mention about Totally Rockin' Out is that when active, it heals you, and that is every time it activates after it finishes activating. So, let's say it activates 8 seconds later, when it's gone, you get it again, you heal again. So, essentially, you heal 73%. Oh, that's not percent, it's 73.5 of base health. But you heal chunks at a time, essentially, after the 8 seconds of Totally Rocking Out. So it'll start, it'll decay, stop. You can shoot a group of enemies again, and then have it again. You keep healing. So let's say if you're in zone or in storm, you hit a group of enemies, that damage you're taking from the storm is gone, right? You heal it. You heal it. You gain that health that you lost while in storm back. So you could essentially be in storm all you want. You won't have any shield. And if you do gain shield, then that's even better. Which brings me to the character I have at the bottom. Eliminations with energy damage restore 8.5 of missing shields. If you are hitting big groups of enemies, you will gain shield pretty quickly. And because this is a Xenon bow setup, you can hit multiple enemies in once, and gain a good bit of shield back. Thus, if you're in zone, you can stay in zone a lot longer. You gain your shield back, you take that shield damage, you still have a lot of health. You can regain your health and shield. So I have them both in my support team. These two characters are strictly for sniper damage. The bows are considered a sniper. So I have increased sniper critical damage 75%, and I'm using this character not as my main for the reason, being that I can have this splinter. It will still splinter, but it'll do less damage as far as I know. Let me see. Okay, yeah, splinter 3 for 20. So yeah, I have these, and people do ask me, why don't I just main this character and then have this character down there, and it will still splinter and I will technically do more damage, but I'm going for as many enemies getting taken out as possible, and this does it, doing 5. It is not exclusive to miss monsters or anything. You can hit a little guy, a little French fry guy, a basic husk, and it will damage any miss monster, and you could kill them as well in one shot. Um, Depending on your crit stuff, right? You could have more crit damage on it, like a double crit damage rating on your weapon, and obviously you'll hit more damage. So if you splinter, you hit more damage, but it varies on how you set it up. These two characters I haven't explained yet, but they are basically just as they read: eliminating 10 enemies in 9 seconds grants Rock and Rift, which increases damage and melee attack speed. I said damage and melee attack speed by 50 and by 32. Decays over 8 seconds, obviously, but that's still really good, right? You get a damage buff from this character, you get a crit rating buff from just the team perk, and you could also, it's optional. I usually put this just because it's another character add on that is required from the team perks. Yes, it's 2 of 2. You need 2 totally rad heroes in your team to have the team perk active. And you could harvest metal and get sub wafers, and eating the sub wafers. I'm trying to read it while also thinking of how to explain. So sorry if I jumble up my words and say and a lot. But eating sub wafers will grant you rocket drift as well. So why not collect sub wafers and then just pop them as you need them. In my opinion, doing that may be a little smarter, but I'm a little more run and gun. And besides, I have other ways of gaining rock and rift, so it's not a huge thing for me. Uh, this setup is basically a encampment's worst nightmare. This is your best setup for encampment missions. Perfect for them, actually. Even in adventures, it's really good in adventures. I'll probably throw in a clip. I don't know. I keep pulling. What's up, guys? I don't know why I keep pulling out my build. So this is gonna be a short kind of showcase of what this bow build does in ventures. Uh, so yeah, let's go check it out. As you can see, even with like my bow not being necessarily mine, since mine I have it the way I want it and what's best for this bow setup, it still just eliminates. Unfortunately, there wasn't a encampment mission in the 124 zone. I'm currently in the 124 zone, working my way up, but there's not an encampment mission in the 124 zone, so I can't really show how good it is other than that single encampment. But it took it out relatively quickly. Just imagine what it would do to the other maybe 3 waves of enemies that come from encampment missions. Okay, now into our next hero loadout. I'm gonna talk about my power base, right? It's not too much to talk about. As you know, it is a base build, right? Or a constructor build, as I would call them. Constructor build or a soldier build. And when I refer to those, I'll explain to what I mean by soldier build. But a base build is usually just constructors with abilities that affect base, right? This one being structures affected by base are healed 11% of max health every 10 seconds. And with that, if you pair traps, and I'll show you the traps later, if you pair traps, you can heal more than that every 10 seconds. So keep that in mind. Okay. Team perk, as it reads, increases damage of traps affected by base by 8.5. And I believe that there's only a total 8.5. Actually, no. I said that the other way around. I believe it's 8.5 per constructor you have in support team. And I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't read up on it. I don't know if that's true or not. But if it is, that's pretty good, right? Okay, let's go into my first support. My first support being Lofty Architecture, which is just the name for the ability that Base Kyle has. And it is increased building health by 28%. This does stack with other people's heroes, right? Let's say, this setup is unchanged and I have a friend of mine joined and he's got Base Clown main. That will give, his our base essentially an extra 28% on top of his what's his wrong character. Okay. Could you show me the okay, there we go. On top of his 84%. So it's always good to have someone that your team has or may use just so that it can stack a little bit. Okay, I have Brain Freeze just because it's kind of cool. It's I believe it's a new character, new ability. When decoy is destroyed, it explodes in a frigid blast. It freezes all enemies in a 1 tile radius for 3 seconds. So it doesn't freeze husks with riot shields, which is kind of sucky. If they do turn or something while it goes off, then it will freeze them. But if they're facing it, I don't think it'll freeze them. And I have this. Mainly because it freezes enemies. It's kind of cool, you know. If you have enemies jumping your wall, you could throw this down, distract them, attack them, and if you can't kill them all, it'll freeze them in a 1 tile radius. So even if it just entered the tile and the decoy just broke, they are frozen. All right. I got tough traps. I got Mechanist Mina. This was a pack that I bought. This ability you can get from other characters. I just bought the pack because I wanted the character, I guess. Uh, but she increases the ability increases. The ability increases trapped her ability by 17.5%, which is really good, right? You get an extra couple of uses out of your traps. That's another good thing to always have. I have build and repair speed, 10%. It's not a lot, but it does come in handy from time to time. And I have battle beat. Why do I have battle beat? Because traps are considered eliminations. So you can activate battle beat by just having trap eliminations. It also increases your damage. So let's say you're a constructor with a launcher, right? Or you have a stronger gun, like a xenon bow. You can use a xenon bow and still do a generous amount of damage just because of your eliminations you get from the trap. And always with my gadgets, especially for constructors, I have a slow field and a banner. A banner, if you don't know, when it's maxed out, can give building health 250% increased in health. Building health increased ability. It increases the health of the buildings around it in a 1 tile radius for 250% of its base health for 45 seconds. Which is another thing that's really good. If you have smashers charging your stuff, you throw a banner down. That'll give your building so much health. The smashers won't be able to just run through it. You know, that's the hope at least, right? You throw that down, or you throw the slow field down as well, along with it to stop any enemies from damaging your builds further. That's my thinking of it. Sub-Zero Zenith, this is another bow build, and it's based off of the bow's crit hits. So later you'll see with my bow, I have double crit rating. I have double crit rating because of this build. It is built for this build. This build is really good. So if you could use it, then use it. If you can't, then, well, at least you learn a little bit from this video, hopefully. If not, that's fine. But sniper crit hits freeze enemies for 1.6 seconds and apply water affliction, right? The good thing about the affliction is if your bow has affliction, it is double affliction. And on top of that, afflictions can crit. So if you have crit rating, let's say on your bow, you can crit hit the affliction. The affliction will crit hit and freeze them again. So you can have enemies like smashers, since it does freeze mist monsters. Yes, it does freeze takers. Takers get frozen in the air and they look hilarious, right? So you could freeze a smasher indefinitely, basically. You can freeze a smasher indefinitely, almost indefinitely, right? Sometimes you'll hit a crit and he'll break out, but the affliction could freeze him again, which has happened to me before. The affliction could freeze him again and again, and he's just stuck there like a big dummy, just standing there, not doing anything, which is perfect, especially for your base. I have totally rocking out for that reason, increased crit rating. You know, battle beats of warfare, just my totally rocking out characters, you know that. Sure shot, quick scope, both just more sniper characters. And I have increased affliction duration. Fire of the Dragon. Is this specific to melee, since this guy is a melee character? Is this specific to melees? As far as I know, no. I don't think it's specific to melee weapons. So I'm using it as an increased affliction duration. So if they get afflicted, right, by let's say this water affliction. I'm hoping that it continues longer than what it reads on a water affliction for 3 seconds. Hopefully, it lasts maybe a second and a half more or so, but even that second and a half is good, right? If I have a bunch of enemies, I could just spam the bullet round, especially with Totally Rocking Out going. I could spam it a lot faster. So that's why I have this ninja on my support team for this character is. And then I also have a banner and an adrenaline rush for the health and for the building health, right? Because even though it's an outlander and it is kind of mobile, it does rely on energy. And if you are fighting nature enemies, you're not gonna have energy. But that's fine because you could freeze on the enemies. So what does it matter, right? Especially if you have this build. For the fifth build, this is just my recycling build, right? This is not very specific. I kind of just threw these characters together and was like, if I select this on accident, at least it will be somewhat beneficial to the base, the structures that I have it on. So it's not super important. What really is important for this recycling setup is Mega Base Kyle and recycling. That's it. That's it for this. That's it for this one. You could put any team character you want on there. It's fine. Now, this is what I refer to when I say, do you have a soldier build? Some people don't understand that. That's fine. So when I say, do you have a soldier build, I really mean, do you have a going commando build? Right? This character specifically is for commando duration. As it says, an extra 20 seconds on the duration of how long I can use my going commando. Happy Holidays is an ability which reduces the cooldown and it stacks independent from other perks. So you could pair it with Going Again, or you could pair it with Broomstick, or you can't pair it with another Ain't Done Yet, which is another duration one because it's a main or a commander with duration. But you can pair it with another decrease in cooldown. So it's a 40 with a 30. I also have Battle Beat. Yep, more damage. You guessed it. And this, I have this set up specifically for Ventures. There is a 0 cooldown in Ventures when I use this character for this Ventures. For this Ventures specifically. There's a 0 cooldown. Part of that reason, you say, how is there a 0 cooldown when this Venture season there's no energy? Well, I have a character or a bunch of two characters that give you energy. But the good thing is, with this Ventures, for shooting an enemy, hitting it, you gain energy. So if I gain the required 50 it is to use Going Commando, I could pull minigun out, gain energy back to 100, use it again, gain it back to 100 again, and just keep using it like that. I as well have Survivalist. If you don't know, Survivalist eliminations heal you for 39 base health over 3 seconds. Just like this guy, except he heals you instead of gives you energy. Right? And that's also really good in Ventures. Because you really have to, you don't have adrenaline rush, or you used it and it's on cooldown. You could pull out your minigun and just get to healing. Another character I have is Going Commando Damage. Right? You could always use more damage. Always, always, always. Increase Going Commando damage by 25%. Yes, you could use him as your main. You will have a bit of a cooldown. It won't be a 0 cooldown. It'll be like maybe like an 11-second cooldown. 12-second cooldown if I remember right. And do more damage. How much more damage you say? Well, you do 50 and it changes the energy. Right? Basic Going Commando element is physical. Right? It's a physical element ability, I guess you could say. With this guy, you can change energy. You can change it to energy and not have to worry about who you're hitting because it might do reduced damage. So if it's energy, you go nuts. Hit any type of enemy, it'll do the same amount of damage it will to any other enemy. but you also have 50% increased damage. So he'll be doing more damage at the cost of actually having a cooldown. So it's up to you. It's not a long cooldown, and if you are in a tight situation, then it is a long cooldown, having a 12-second wait time. But it'll still be really good. All right, what's up, guys? This is gonna be a demonstration, basically, of the infinite minigun I was talking about. I'm gonna fly up to some enemies. Goes about a break, I know. Don't worry about it. Roll up on some enemies. Get to 50. Pull out minigun. You know, wreck them all. And then look at that. I can use the minigun as long as I want. I can cancel it if I wanted to as well. But look at that. I'm at 83 energy. Once this cooldown goes to 0, I'm going to pull the minigun back out. Essentially a infinite minigun. See? I toggled it again. I used, 50 again. If I kill enemies, there's no enemies right now. Or not even here, actually. Let's go down to the shadow orb. But I can walk up to the shadow orb. Kill whatever this is. Back at 50, right? I can pull the minigun out again. And see how I'm back at 50? I'm at 60 even, 70. I could pull it out again, continue to use it, continue to gain energy to get it back another time. So basically, so long as you're killing enemies or have killed enemies, you will get energy, since it is giving you energy, 6 energy every 3 seconds per kill. My 9th is just a farm setup. Now, what you really need for the farm setup, you don't need every single one of these characters. You do not. You need this character, Fossil Sally, Blast from the Past. You need at least 2 of the other Dino characters. And then you need strike cost. That is it. That is it. The character does not have to be a ninja. The character does not have to be an outlander or any other. There's no character specific. It could be any 2 random. See, this is a ninja, and this one's a constructor, and I'm an outlander. So it could be any 2 random ones you have, if you have them, or Blast of the Past. From the past. What you need to get Blast from the Past, you need, I believe it's the T-Rex character. What's his name? He is also an outlander, I think. I don't think I have him because he's. I don't think I have him because I don't use him. But he's the T-Rex looking character in green in the Dino Heroes. You need him to get Blast from the Past. After that, then you can get Fossil Southie, and you can get any other random character. And all you need is Fossil Southie, Blast from the Past, and strike cost. And you could interchange them. You could use Archaeologist is the name of this character. You could use her as your main, and you could use Fossil Southie as your support. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change very much either way. So there. Ghoul Trooper Ramirez. I have this for the Storm King setup. Yep. Storm King's another thing people ask me for about. This is just a Warcry build. Warcry duration, Happy Holidays, reduce cooldown. Bass Solo. Bass Solo is a cooldown reduction, a duration increase up to 15 eliminations, gives you 0.4 seconds of Warcry. Faster explosion, because you are going to be using launchers, whether it is the Santa launcher that shoots presents, I forgot what it's called, the pot shot, one of the two. the launcher one. One of them's a shotgun, which is why I get confused. Uh, fighter, flight or fight or flight. Sorry, fight or flight is a Warcry ability. Grants additional weapon damage and movement speed. Right? Why do you want movement speed when your Warcry pops? Well, because when you're using your Warcry, usually you're using it on one of the horns, and you want to be able to have weapon damage and movement speed. Assassination. It's kind of one of the things I just had on there. I don't think this character's leveled up at all. Anyway, yeah, it's not. It's just something that I had in there just to have it in there. I have yet to find a slot, someone to put in that spot, so I just filled it with some random person. And then I got a Warcry cooldown. Decreases it by 70%. So it is good for cooldown. It is good. It is good for what it is, right? Because you're not gonna run up and just get the horn really quickly, especially if you're not with a very experienced group. Then you're not gonna hit it right away. You're gonna fight to get to that horn. Once you do get to that horn, is when you're gonna pop your Warcry. And if you're asking, well, do I do enough damage with Warcry? If you have certain guns, like let's say, if you can craft or have a 144 plasmatic discharger, then you are fine. You do not have to worry. You do not have to worry about the epic main bosses that spawn during the Storm King. You guys know that. And for this one, I have Adrenaline Rush and Slow Field. Why do I have Slow Field? Well, sometimes I put Slow Field right under my build as I'm building up, let's say to the horn, or if I'm building up to get away from the enemies, which is what I suggest you do. I see a lot of people who like to run around on the ground and get hit and die to the water and stuff. But if you are going to do that, guys, please build up off the ground. Ignore the enemies on the ground, because those guys they're not a problem, especially if you build up. The only ones that are really a problem are the mythics, not the mythics, the mini bosses. I don't know why I said mythics. The mini bosses are the ones that are really a problem. And my last one, as I said, the first one and last one are usually just fun ones. This one is a rocket spam build. It is really fun, but also really pricey. It sucks up all of your mats, all of your rough ore, all of your blast powder, all of your coal. It sucks it all up. It is fun to use, but it sucks it all up. So to have a rocket spam setup, you're gonna need this character. This character, Star Spread Gun Headhunter. On Warcry, when you use your Warcry, you have 50% chance of each shot to not consume ammo. Right? That is crazy. Any type of weapon. Any shot. Any weapon. You could have an LMG with mag size and have it crazied out with a bunch of crit stuff or damage stuff. Damage has a cap, so I don't know if you want to do damage, but you could soup it up with crit stuff and do a ton of crit damage to a group of enemies. I mean, if it's a weapon that doesn't pierce enemies, then you're gonna be doing it to whoever's in line, basically. Which could work too as well. And I have Happy Holidays, cooldown reduction. Obviously, I want to use my Warcry as much as possible. Launcher damage. You seen the last one? I had a launcher damage as well. For even more damage with your plasmatic discharger or with your Santa's Little Helper, which I just remembered the name from earlier, the present launcher. Your Santa's Little Helper or your deatomizer, right? Those will help you do a little bit more damage. Practice in combat for increased Warcry duration. Fight or flight for increased damage, movement speed. Affliction, because some of the weapons I use cause affliction. I think. Let me check. Nah, I think if it does or doesn't. I know they do, but I'm saying. This V6 launcher causes affliction. This is one of the guns I have purely for fun. It's not a good. It's not like crazy good gun, right? It does a bit of damage, but it's not crazy. It's just fun to fire because it has a. You could have good max size on it and it just spray forever, right? Uh, if I really wanted to have fun with the launcher setup, I would try to use a dam buster because those things have a lot of impact. I believe, and you can just toss around enemies, which is really funny. Okay, so that's my affliction, and then this is another important one: enduring machine from 8-bit. What's the name? It's 8-bit something. Okay, 8-bit demo. 8-bit demo is another constructor that gives explosive weapons a 20% chance not to consume ammo with each shot. You could. What's his 40% chance? You could have a 40% chance, but you might as well use Spoils of War because it's a 50% chance. So it's a 10% more chance to not use ammo. On top of already not using ammo, you have another explosive. Sorry. Give me a second. Oh, sorry, you're here all of a sudden. But yeah, it's another. Let me go back to it. It's it's another 20% chance on the 50% chance that you already have. So there's that. Now that is all my heroes. I'm gonna switch back to whatever I was before, just in case I decide to start a mission. Now, as I explained previously, I showed you guys what perks my traps had and that sort of thing. So you can kind of get an idea of how I would use them. Right? This trap, obviously, ceiling drop trap. What I don't like seeing people do is spamming them all over the place. Yes, spamming them all over the place could work, but at least in my eyes, it looks like a very noob thing just to spam traps all over the place and pray you're gonna win, right? It's the spray and pray of this game. I don't really like seeing it. People that do it, I'm friends with someone who does it occasionally, but it's okay, right? You can do it. It's just, it's just a little thing I get like slightly bothered by. Like, you could build a good tunnel. You could build, something where the enemies won't, have to run through that random assortment of ceiling traps to go over the entire place. You know what I mean? So obviously, these are gonna go on slopes. And next trap, obviously, next trap. Since I kind of ranted on about that one, next trap, my ceiling electric fields. This is what I have on them. A double reload. I like to be able to hit enemies as much as I can. So that's why I have double reload. Now these are 3x3 range, meaning you can have them 3 tiles high, and they will attack and hit enemies from 3 tiles high. That is a good thing, right? They also have a 3 tile range, which means, at least from what I had figured out, you can put these traps in an enclosed box with only windows, and it will still hit an enemy. Now, I haven't tested it a lot. I've tested it barely any. I use them from time to time, and if they did get close enough to the wall, they would get hit, right? And it's especially useful if you, let's say, don't want a water break. You want to trap on the other side, or a trap on the inside, trap on the outside to do that double damage. You could put a trap like my 130 wall spike, increase building health, and then pair it with your constructor. Mine being power base, which heals building pieces. You have a higher chance of having that wall live longer, essentially, if you give it a bit of health. Or, like with my wall darts, you give it a heals attached, right? Meaning that it'll heal that piece of building 4.8 of its max health every 10 seconds. And it doesn't stack, which means you can't put one on one side and one on the other side. And wow, you got 10%, 10, 8, 9%, 9%, maybe 10% of healing no, it's not gonna work. All right, but you can pair, let's say, it's wall darts with my wall spikes, and they, that will work. But as far as I know, it's 3x3, so you could put a window in a box, or a box with the windows all around it, and then put that in the ceiling piece in the center of the box. And as far as I know, it'll work. Right, it'll do damage. Wooden floor spikes, right? I usually use this wooden floor spikes not for enemies. I know I have it crit. You're like, why do you have it all crit up? Crit. When you have it all crit up, if it's you're not using it for that. Well, occasionally I do use it, but it's on occasion. I usually use it for its heels attached. In a lot of the cases, I have enemies in which I push back with ramps. So I have a floor launcher. I have a floor launcher on the floor, and a ramp, an angled ramp. Whether that be the cone that's angled or edited to make a ramp, or just a ramp. I have enemies get launched back with that, or launched back with wall launchers. But it varies, right? Okay. Now my anti-airs. The thing I like about anti-airs is that I'm not sure if everyone knows this as well. It's a good thing, and there's a bad thing about it, right? The anti-airs, they will shoot enemies' propane tanks. So if a propane guy comes by and chucks a propane tank at you or at your build, the anti-airs will shoot it when it's on the ground. So they'll throw it, it'll land, and it'll get shot. I've seen this happen a ton of times. I can say for sure it does that. Another thing it does, which is the bad part about it, is that it also shoots the pitcher's bones, right? The pitchers will throw bones, and the anti-airs will shoot it, which is kind of sucky because they can throw bones pretty fast. Propane guys can't throw propanes pretty fast because they only have one. Um, Aside from that, it does shoot flying enemies, but flying enemies have changed, right? When a flinger, that's what I mean by flying enemies. When a flinger throws an enemy, the enemy will fly to your build or the objective you're trying to defend. And the anti-air will shoot it and will not do enough damage to kill it. That is why I have triple damage. Triple damage, even triple damage doesn't kill it. It's really crappy, honestly, that it doesn't kill it. But it is something that we have to deal with as players. They actually even buffed flingers. Flingers throw husky husks now. They throw the big boys, chunky boys. They also throw healers. They throw elemental husks, right? Husks that have a specific element: fire, nature, water. So they do that. These I don't. Oh, we're moving on. Sorry. Next trap, the broadsides. A broadside, since right now it's singular, but the broadside trap I've come to dislike for some reason. I started disliking it. I have a double damage, reload, durability, heals attached. Right? I used to use it in place of my wall darts. So, as wall darts, you would use them in a hallway. I usually use them every other one, and then I'll layer it with sound walls. So it'll be, let's say, a broadside, a sound wall, broadside, sound wall, like that. And then I'll do the opposite to the other side, so that when an enemy lands in an area with a broadside, on the other side the wall will have a sound wall. It's basically just to ensure that they get hit by that single trap and aren't running by and getting hit, even though they do move while they're stunned with the sound wall. But I usually pair that with the floor tar pit, with the floor trap tar pit. Right, the tar pit. Once they get into it, as soon as they step onto it, they will stop and they will keep trying to go. I have a whole durability on it because of that reason. Now the tar pit, the durability is 74. Right, with oh crap, with my increased trap durability from my survivors and from my hero that I have in my survivor squad, my hero support gives it, I think, 80, 82 maybe 81, 82 durability, which is pretty cool, and it's nice since have more durability. I can stop more enemies, and I don't know if a lot of people know this either, but tar pits can stop smashers from charging. So I usually layer, let's say, my tar pits in a hallway or layer them around an objective so that we don't have smashers jumping our walls. The ceiling next trap, the ceiling gas trap is another one I dislike. Why? It's an element specific. It's an element specific damage type, right? Physical. And while in some cases physical will read more than certain element types, like wall darts as well. They don't necessarily, you can't change them. Or actually, you can't change them. But wall darts will still do damage because they do a good base damage. What's their base damage anyway? Damage, okay, 1400. So yeah, 1400. So with that base damage and the crit rating, it does do a good amount of damage. So having them element specific isn't too much to worry about since it might crit for a good amount of damage and will kill the enemy. This one, I tried to have crit rating and all durability specifically because of the effect duration, right? You want the effect duration to crit, but because it doesn't do so much damage already, it's not really gonna continue through that damage in my opinion. Crit hit damage 702, right? And that's hypothetically per effect duration, per effect tick, right? You would hit that 700. With this one, it's a 4,000 hit, and that's per hit. So that's why I kind of grew to dislike it. I'm probably gonna scrap these two. After the video, you probably won't see any more of my traps because I kind of do just want to get rid of them. Now onto my ceiling zapper, right? Now my ceiling zapper, this is a high damage trap that I use for basically I try to use it for mist monsters like the takers or the smashers that like to run around and slap our buildings. Those are the ones I try to use this on. And you can say, well, how do I use that and how do I not use this? I use them at the same time. Good answer. Sorry. I went off to myself, but basically I use them at the same time. Obviously, I try to use as many traps to my advantage as I can. Not like spamming them, but more like a tactical placement or building trap tunnels. You know what I mean? That sort of thing. So this, I'll try to get in areas where it's gonna hit a single target really well, like kind of close to the objective, and it's essentially just for that, for doing as much damage to enemies that can get close to the objective, like smashers or takers. They can fly through walls, and smashers can as well, I guess, but that's them destroying you. Now the flame grill and floor freeze, I'm gonna kind of do these at the same time. They are element specific traps that I try to use for element specific enemies, like nature enemies. I use the flame grill. If you don't know, fire has increased damage to nature enemies, and water has increased damage to fire enemies. So if I get a nature storm, I'll try to use fire traps, and if I get a firestorm, I'll use freeze traps. There are times as well where I use tar pits instead of these flame grills, for like to say for nature enemies, and it's not all the time that I use floor freezes for fire enemies, right? Sometimes I will still use tar pits just because they stop smashers. In fact, I tend to use tar pits more than these two because of the fact that it can stop smashers. If I was playing with three, then I would probably use my Zenith setup all the time to stop smashers constantly, so we could use an element specific trap against a certain enemy to do more damage, right? To try to ensure the win. Now I already explained my floor. My healing pads are just double reload, double heal, double durability. It's it's only 15 uses, even though it is double not double durability, but um that's how it is with some healing traps. Unfortunately, healing traps are kind of weird. You could put, you know, double reload, double durability, and it still gives you a small amount of uses. Like this one gives me 64, right? And this one is double durability, triple, quadruple, double, quadruple durability, two double doubles, and a reload or knockback, right? Oh, I went out of here again. I need to, you know, sound walls. I kind of explained them a bit before, but I usually use them in pair with my wall darts, or I use them in hallways. You know, with pair with my wall darts, the same thing. Uh, these I don't really use. I have been. It's something that I wanted to let go, so I am probably gonna let go of this too as well. My wall launchers, obviously, I use these on walls, especially for. I have this kind of cheap tactic for the evacuate shelters after I've stopped the first wave of if I'm alone 22, if I'm with a group 55 enemies that you have to eliminate. Um, I will line the outside of my walls with these, and then I'll put tar pits around the floors around the base as well, and it'll stop any incoming smashers because of the impact knockback. It does stun the smashers very very slightly for like maybe less than a second, right? Stun them for a little bit, boom. It could be enough to push them back far enough to get off the tar pit, which means they can't charge into the base again, which is why I use them. And these, I also kind of explained a little bit. I really only use them for the increased build health. I will use them on the inside walls of my objective or lining on the outside of the objective to prevent smashers from completely breaking through a wall on their first charge. And that is my heroes, my schematics. A bit more on how I use both of them. What else? Another thing I wanted to show. Another thing I wanted to show. My survivor squads. Right. A lot of people aren't aware, but one thing you really want to try to work on when you're building your survivor squads is having them match. Right. See how my lead matches. My squad members match my lead. You want to try to get that. And I understand, some people they have a hard time getting survivors, or they have a hard time matching their survivors. And matching them is not something you have to worry about right away, but it is something you have to keep in the back of your mind while collecting survivors. You could be trying to match them as you go, or you could just fill in a bunch of legendaries in one spot and have them all mixed around, and then later go back and fix them. It is up to you, but do try to remember that they are going to have to match, and there are mythic heroes. There are mythic survivors like Carolina and like Joel. Joel's back here. Joel is right here. There are two you can get within the game. There's two quests, one for each of them. They get to 169, which is pretty nice. And if you max them out, yeah, they go to 169. But matching them is something you're gonna want to do. You're gonna want to try to do. Pay attention to. Another thing to pay attention to is the leader match. Why it says leader match 0, I have no idea. But I do have a leader match, right? This is an EMT squad. The slot wants a leader with that, the symbol, the hospital symbols. I don't remember what the, I was gonna say I forgot, but then I was like, I don't really know what it is. I don't know what that symbol is called, but I know you see it on hospitals and stuff, so I'm gonna call it the hospital symbol. Uh, it does want that in the lead, and I do have it. I don't know why it says 0, but I do have it. This as well says 0 as well, but I have them. See, you want a leader match. You want it to be a marksman, so you fill it with a marksman, and so on and so forth. Engineer. It's all matching. All the leads, all the everything, all that good. If you do get a mythic early on, like a mythic lead, it is good to try and fit him in somewhere and put levels into him, because that will gain your power level like pretty quickly. You'll gain power level pretty quickly. Okay, let's see. I am probably, let's see. I want to jump into a random mission and show you a bit more of what I mean. Should I go to Stonewood? Yeah, I'm going to go here. And show you what I mean with some of these build techniques that I used or have used. Not necessarily tested like the box one that I was talking about earlier. Okay, we're here. Let's see. This is a new zone, which is actually really cool. I'm gonna collect that just to collect that, but this is a new zone. It is really, really pretty actually. But one of the techniques I'll show you now out of wood, I would do like this ceiling, and then let's say you put one of these like that, and then you could layer outside with whatever you want. I would do this, right? Layer the walls with traps that give increased health, and on the outside you could put sound walls. You could still shoot through them. Enemies can still throw stuff through them, like the pitchers. The pitchers can still throw stuff through them. But if they get close enough, like let's say they're here, they will get hit by the trap. They will still try to walk towards you to break the wall, and they will take damage. So they will get wrecked trying to get to. Let's see if I could even prove that. Actually, I should have left that there. Okay, put a floor, ramp, both. Let's look for a little bit of enemies. This is gonna kill them in one shot, so I'm gonna slap them. Of course, they're gonna fight. There we go. Here, guys, let's go. He's stuck. Okay, I'm gonna run up. Well, I gotta have them follow me, but I'm gonna run to my box, safety box. This guy's really trying to fight. A little chicken. Run to my safety box. Oh, my upgrade is broken. Okay, run to my safety box. Alright. And they get hit. They died. It used it. So, theory proven true. But yeah, you could use this method. Another thing you could do, if you really want to do more damage, you could close this wall and put a wall dart. You can put a wall dart on this back wall, and it will shoot through this window. So, there is that setup. That way of trapping things, right? And you could have this in a corner. Like, let's say the objective is, the objective is right here, right? You could have this in a corner. You could have some sort of like pushing mechanism here, like a floor launcher to push the enemies back. And if they try or get too close to this one, they will get attacked and they will die. Adding another layer of defense sort of to your to protect your defense, to protect your objective. You don't have to have it there. You can make it out of any material, obviously. It's probably preferred if you make it out of metal, since this wall is kind of weird. And if you put, what character am I? If you put power on, the base will increase health a little bit, but not too much, right? I think it was 2800. Okay, watch. Let's move this. Yeah, 2400, and it went to it's a 31 something, right? Oh, 3082. So it did increase it a little bit, but you know what I mean. If it was metal or even brick, it'd be a bit more, or yeah, it'd have more health because it's a different material. But sorry for the jump cut. I realized I forgot to show you guys the weapons I use for certain heroes. After, I was gonna show you before I did the setup for the trap to explain to you how it works, but I guess it's going to be after now. So let me go ahead and leave this mission, and I will show you guys the weapons. Okay, we're back. Now, the weapons I have in par with certain builds, like my spam build, I'll do that one first since I left at that one last. My spam, it is a crit affliction. I'm pretty sure you've seen it when I toggled over to it earlier. But damage to afflicted, affliction, energy, crit damage. As I said previously, afflictions do have a crit chance. So you can crit hit an afflicted target. And it's kind of funny because if you spam it, it just like shoots almost like forever. With this one, it's got a magazine of 6. If you use the thing, it like almost doubles it. So you have like a magazine of 12, maybe 13. But it depends on the chance you get it. So it could be 12 or 13. So my Xenon ball, as I mentioned earlier, has a double crit rating, a reload speed, and energy. Obviously, energy also has affliction because, as I said before, again, sorry I keep saying that, but I use Zenith more often than I use Stormheart Farah. There you go. Sorry, Stormheart Farah. So which is why I have double crit rating. I usually will have, let's say, two other team members, myself and 2 others. They will run constructors and I will run Zenith. And my role as Zenith is basically to stop any flingers, any smashers that are not the epic. I keep saying mythic, the epic smasher, because you can't freeze the epic smasher. Um, there's adventures where you can freeze the mini bosses, right? They freeze for a little bit, but they do freeze. And it was the previous ventures, I believe, during escalation, which after killing, I think it's like 210 enemies, they all freeze. And then it starts the escalation process again, and you have to get 210 kills again, then it freezes them again. But it's a slow build up. If you're going, if you're low level essentially, right, and you're running around, you don't have good weapons yet, or maybe if you don't have a minigun build, a going commando build, then it takes a little longer. But yeah, double crit rating for hopefully double freezing or more freezing than usual, you would say. Storm King Scrouge and the Wrath. The Wrath I use for Mythic Storm King. The Scrouge I don't use at all. Sorry about that. But yeah, that doesn't have to be it for this video, guys. If you liked it, then leave a like. If you want to see more of me playing stuff, next is Medieval Dynasty. I kind of like that game. As I mentioned before, I like the exploration. I like the figuring out what the game is about, sort of thing. It's kind of a cool exploration type thing that I kind of like. So yeah, if you want to see more of that or anything else, then hit the subscribe button. But it is gonna have to be for this one. So I will see you guys next time.